You're listening to Radio Thailand News.
For the very first time, those who enjoy dining out will be able to take pleasure in an unparalleled atmosphere featuring lively music and a breathtaking view, as celebrity chefs prepare the most tantalizing of meals to delight the senses on a menu that changes every single week, together with a vast selection of beers and wine to form the very finest and most perfect dining experience possible. Come on down to Bangkok Bistro Riverfront. From now until March the 4th, call 083-077-8101 for reservations. That's 083-077-8101.
Global News. Brought to you by AirAsia. Now everyone can fly.
You're listening to Radio Thailand's broadcasting live from FM 88 and relayed to station nationwide, and these are our global headlines. Coming up, the presidents of Czech Republic and Croatia, Serbia, and Slovakia gathered for a quadrilateral meeting near Prague yesterday to discuss issues of mutual interest, including Croatia and Serbia's bids to join the European Union or the EU. Speaking to reporters at Lani Castle, about 35 kilometers west of Prague, Czech President Václav Klaus welcomed the idea of Croatia and Serbia being part of the EU. Croatian President Ivo Josipovic and Slovak President Ivan Gasprovic echoed the idea, saying that the countries have similar culture, similar tradition, and similar economy can have similar interests within the EU in the future. Serb President Boris Tadic said that the country would never recognize the independence of Kosovo, citing Pristina could not be a deciding point for Serbia in joining the EU. He added that Serbia would endeavor to stabilize the situation in the South European region to avoid conflicts here, but would never accept the independence of Kosovo.
Drivers in Russia's capital city took to the streets last night in an auto rally to show support for Russian Prime Minister Vladimir Putin ahead of the presidential election on March 4th. Like fellow countrymen who turned out by the thousands in several cities across Russia on Saturday, the pro-Putin auto ralliers said the premier's leadership and the future stability of Russia drove them to take part in the rally. Anti-Putin protests have drawn tens of thousands repeatedly since a December 4th election that returned his ruling party to a slim majority in the Russian lower house of parliament, the State Duma. Protesters have called for a rerun of the election, which observers say lacked transparency and was skewed in favor of Mr. Putin's United Russia. Auto rally participants said they wanted to turn the table on anti-Putin protesters. Earlier in the day, rally goers fixed stickers to their cars bearing the message, "I'm for Putin," and amusing depictions of him as a South Park American cartoon character and in sunglasses. The 59-year-old prime minister had carefully cultivated a tough guy image, remains Russia's most popular and influential politician, but his popularity had been shrinking since he decided last September to return to the Kremlin after a 4-year stint as prime minister. He was also recently booed at a sports event he attended and is regularly ridiculed on the internet, and even in some television programs.
Meanwhile, new Cardinals greeted their friends and family after the ceremony in St. Peter's Basilica yesterday. They came from the United States, Hong Kong, Italy, Portugal, Spain, Brazil, India, Canada, Czech Republic, the Netherlands, Romania, Belgium, and Malta. Meeting reporters after the ceremony, many were excited and emotional. 18 of the new Cardinals were aged under 80 and though would be eligible to enter a secret conclave to elect the next pope from among their own ranks. 12 of those are Europeans, bringing the number of Cardinal electors from the continent to 67 out of 125. With the new appointments, Benedict, who was elected in a secret conclave in 2005, has now named more than half of the cardinal electors. The others were named by the predecessor John Paul. Now, compared to the 67 cardinal electors from Europe, Latin America now has 22, North America has 15, Africa has 11, Asia has 9, and Oceania has 1. Now, cardinals are the Pope's closest collaborators in the Vatican and around the world. They lead major archdioceses and run key Vatican departments that help the Pope decide church policy and doctrine that can affect the lives of Catholics worldwide.
Now, Libya's Prime Minister Abdurrahman al-Khaib, in an address to the nation yesterday, acknowledged the part others had played in the revolution. There were revolution anniversary celebrations on Friday in the capital and Benghazi, but problems of reconciliation persist in post-Gaddafi Libya. Troops were sent to stem clashes between rival tribes over control of territory in the far southeast of Libya, as more people were reported killed in the violence. Clashes broke out late last week in the remote city of Al-Kufra and had continued since, highlighting the challenge of policing the sparsely populated desert. Dozens of people had been killed. Libya's ruling National Transitional Council had struggled to assert its authority across the whole of Libya as rival regional militias and tribal groups jostled for power and resources following the fall of Muammar Gaddafi.
Meanwhile, the latest round of talks to try to resolve a dispute over Morocco fishing rights in the northeast Atlantic had entered failure, with the EU's fisheries chief blaming Iceland and Faroe Islands for the collapse. Officials have so far held 5 rounds of talks to try to end the ongoing mackerel war, which began in 2010 when Iceland increased its annual catch quota for the fish from around 2,000 tons to 130,000 tons. Faroese mackerel catches had increased 6-fold in the last 2 years to reach 150,000 tons in 2011. The massive increase in quotas had brought both countries in conflict with the fishermen from Scotland, Ireland, and Norway, and threatens to derail Iceland's bid to join the 27-nation European Union, or the EU. Last month, Iceland's economics minister said that the dispute over fishing rights would probably be the biggest hurdle on the country's EU membership bid, which is losing support among Icelanders. Iceland and the Faroe Islands have said that the increase in their quotas was justified because warmer temperatures had caused migratory mackerel to swim further north than ever before into their waters. For its part, the EU has threatened to stop Icelandic and Faroese fishermen from landing their catches at EU ports.
Now, Frenchman Couvin Macron had established a cycling world hour record for riders over 100 years old. Now, Mr. Macron, who turned 100 a few months ago, completed 24.251 kilometers around the velodrome at the World Cycling Center in Agel, Switzerland, on a standard 6-gear track bike with no aero equipment for his attempt. His biggest problem was his familiarity with velodrome riding, as the last time he has ridden on a track was more than 80 years ago. During his preparation, Mr. Macron was warned not to get his heart rate above 110. However, he reported a heart rate of more than 130 when going up a speed hill recently. He had been keeping himself active, but admitted he had limited his cycling trips to under 100 kilometers during the past 5 years. His advice to anyone, young or old, was to keep on moving.
Meanwhile, Cameroon officials have said that poachers had killed more than 200 elephants in the country in the past 6 weeks in a massacre fueled by Asian demand for ivory. Local government officials said that heavily armed poachers from Chad and Sudan had disseminated the elephant population in Bouda Najida National Park in Cameroon's far north in a dry season killing spree. Governor of Cameroon's northern region, Gambo Haman, said some of the poachers worked with the local population who had given the free elephant meat and were glad to be rid of animals that damaged their crops. The International Fund for Animal Welfare, or IFAW, said that cross-border poaching was common during the dry season, but the scale of the killings so far this year was unprecedented. Citing a record number of large-scale ivory seizures last year, Traffic, a conservation group which tracks trends in wildlife trading, has warned of a surge in elephant poaching in Africa to meet Asian demand for tusks for use in jewelry and ornaments. IFAW said it was not clear how many elephants remain in Cameroon by the 2007 estimate, but the figure around 1,000 to 5,000. Traffic has said that the spike in poaching and illegal ivory trade in Africa was a direct consequence of China's investment drive into the continent.
And last but not least, the Australian government said yesterday it would carry out a comprehensive assessment of development pressure on the Great Barrier Reef to help preserve the world's largest coral reef system. Environment Minister Tony Burke and the Queensland state government said the assessment would take into account how development along the Australia's northeast coast is affecting the reef. In 2010, part of the reef was damaged when a Chinese-owned coal ship, the Shenning 1, ran aground on it. The assessment would be the largest of its type ever conducted in Australia and would examine planning applications for rapidly developing Queensland. The state was an important exporter of commodities as well as a major tourist destination. The reef was one of its main tourist attractions and is visible from space. Queensland State Environment Minister Vicky Darling said the assessment would ensure development as well-planned and systems are in place to protect the area's World Heritage values. She said the assessment would be discussed next month with a delegation from the United Nations body United Nations Educational, Scientific and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO.
And those were our international reports. And up next, we have this morning's special report. Don't go away.
Hello, old-fashioned tours.
Hi, I'd like to book a trip to Beijing.
Sure.
Can I choose my hotel?
Cannot.
Choose my tour?
Cannot.
Then what can I choose? Choose to visit AirAsiaGo.com, where you have over 70,000 hotels and 5,000 tours to select from worldwide. We also have plenty of holiday activities and rental cars for you to choose from. AirAsiaGo.com. Choose your perfect holiday.
Happiness Thailand Paradise with the Ministry of Tourism and Sports and the Tourism Authority of Thailand.
Happiness Thailand Paradise flies through the gateway of the South at Bangkok Airways Samui Airport to new and exciting destinations. The award-winning Samui Airport exudes the boutique personality and sophistication that has made Bangkok Airways one of Asia's best regional airlines. The entire terminal offers travelers the comfort and personal care that has made Bangkok Airways boutique lounges so prized in other airports. From its design to service-minded staff, Samui Airport has so much more than other airstrips. Living up to its recognition as Thailand's southern aviation hub, Bangkok Airways Samui Airport serves flights to and from the essential domestic locations of Grad, Krabi, Phuket, Pattaya, and Bangkok. Broadening its horizons, the airport has in recent years taken on flights from Hong Kong and Singapore. Starting this March 31st, the Malaysian capital of Kuala Lumpur will also be available via Samui Airport. Travelers to the dynamic city will be able to fly direct from Samui and enjoy boutique service and gourmet in-flight meals. Fly boutique, feel unique from Bangkok Airways' very own Samui Airport, offering direct flights to Kuala Lumpur this March 31st onward. For information, visit BangkokAir.com.